All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited today to talk about this subject, music as therapy. We have with us today John Lehman, and he is a friend and colleague with Skip and has been a music person for a long time. I'm going to let him talk about that. But the 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 ideal thing here is, and what caught my attention is that he has a method of combining or bringing music and to care and support of dementia. So I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away, John. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, everybody, and I look forward to discussion and interaction. I am a storyteller, so you are going to get some stories from me as opposed to a lot of PowerPoint slides, if that's okay.
Love
Uh,
it.
I guess my first story is that in 1995, I lost my mom to Alzheimer's, and she had it bad for 7 or 8 years before she passed. And a few years before her, I lost her sister, my aunt, to dementia and Alzheimer's. And I'm 80 years old, and I fear it. But no symptoms so far other than I can't remember Skip's name. But um, and but long before my mom passed away from Alzheimer's complications, she wanted me very much to be a musician. She preferred violinist because she thought that was classier than the piano, but I didn't practice, so it didn't matter anyway. I did not stay with it. Um, but when I was, was about to turn 15 years old, my only sibling, my big sister, who was getting some funding from a car accident that she had been in. She said, "Well, Johnny, for your birthday, would you like a stereo?" Now, this is 1960, so stereo was pretty new. Or would you like a jukebox? And I said, "Well, gosh, if it's all the same to you, Kay, I'll take a jukebox." And so a 1951 Nickelodeon got delivered to our house in July of 1960, and it came with some 45 RPM records that the vendor just happened to have on hand, and I began collecting in 1960. I won't tell you how many hundreds of thousands of pieces of vinyl and tapes and CDs that I have, but I have about 6 million songs on the internet. Um, I'm not sure whether that makes me a large private collector, but it's way more than I can handle. Um, but for much of my adult life, even though I loved my hobby, I did not, I could not figure out a way to make it useful and profitable, not necessarily together, but either or would have been fine for anybody but myself. Um, but I was fortunate enough, probably the same year I met Skip, in 2004, my church, which is in Los Altos, uh, I had a person who was responsible for supplying programs for the people who were in their 80s and 90s in the church. The group was called Keystone. And a friend of mine said, "John, we need a Christmas program for the Keystone Group. Um, and our regular person to provide the program had to back out and wondering if you could substitute. And I said, well, sure. What would you like me to talk about? Well, I know, John, that you collect music. Why don't you talk about your collection? And I thought about that and thought that would be the most boring presentation to a bunch of 80 and 90-year-olds that I could imagine. But I had always wondered why it was that I remembered all the melodies and lyrics to all the songs that were popular when I was a teenager, covering the years of oh the the late 50s and early 60s. And I did not know the answer other than I could just sing the whole set of lyrics to a song without even thinking about it. So I did a fair amount of internet research and came across two gentlemen, Oliver Sacks and Daniel Levitin, who were neuroscientists, and their claim and their research was in, among other things, why did people remember the songs that they heard when they were teenagers? And as it turns out, that because of um, our brain development and our um, uh, interaction development and all the things that were going on in our lives as teenagers, what we heard, whether we liked it or not, we never forgot. And when I say never, I mean that study after study has shown that the last piece of memory to go, while there is still an ability to recognize anything in life about a person, is their memory of music. And I was very impressed with that. I remember thinking to myself, well, that explains me. Now I need to go talk to a bunch of old people and see if it applies to them. So I went in there Christmas week of 2004 and said, I found out this amazing stuff about me, but I tried to say it in a gentler way, but you people are old. I wonder if this applies to you. And so, what I'm going to do is play you a set of Christmas songs that haven't been on the radio for at least 60 years. And you're going to recognize the melodies in the song because they're Christmas songs. People have been singing them forever. But I want you to tell me who was performing those songs. I want to know the band. I want to know the singer, anything about the performers. And so I played them songs for an hour, just snippets, less than 15 seconds, and they knew every one. It only took 5, 6, 7 seconds, and they just snapped off the performers and who was in the band and who the singer was. And I was amazed. I just was stunned by that. Um, because they sounded like they knew as much about those as I knew about the songs that I heard and listened to as a teenager. The meeting, the program ended, everybody's going away, and there's a minister in the back of the room who said, I was so surprised by what you discovered. Would you be interested in starting a nonprofit with me to do outreach programs for seniors, including music? And I said, yes, I would be interested in doing that. And so we did. We launched an organization called Senior New Ways, a nonprofit, and it lasted 14 years, did quite well. And that's how I think that we got to meet Skip. Anyway, my minister partner in this, I was chairman of the board and she was the director. She was very interested in what I would call the uh, the academic aspects or the serious aspects of gerontology. And I'll tell you what, I didn't even know how to spell gerontology when we launched this, but she wanted teachers with degrees in gerontology to think deep thoughts and to convey them in a series of programs, either for people in church or people in care centers or libraries or city halls, wherever. Um, and the idea of doing something in music was kind of put to the side. Well, a few years went by, and I guess the nonprofit must have been really starved for some revenue or additional revenue. And she came to me and she said, "I have a gig for you, John." Up until this time, I had been doing name that tune entertainment programs for churches and local service organizations, whatever. Um, and but she said, I have this gig for you. It's at a Catholic Charities runs an adult daycare at a church in Sunnyvale, and I would like you to go over there and do a series of five 1 to 2 hour programs for them about your music. Okay, so I went over and met the director of Catholic Charities there, and this was the first United Methodist Church of Sunnyvale. Pretty sure they still have an adult daycare program there, but this was about 2007, and went in and met them. And as I was walking in the door, the director said, "Well, now, John, these are low function people." I had no idea what low function meant. It went right over my head. I was clueless, paid no attention to it, sat down and started talking to a group of, I would say, 20, 25 people in the room, along with a few aides that were there. And I didn't have 10 or 15 words out of my mouth when I realized that no one was paying the slightest bit of attention to me. I mean, it was just blank stares. And this little tinkle of a memory that said low function popped in, but I was too far into my spiel already, wanting to, really impress these people about my music collection and the songs that I was going to play and all that. And again, nobody was paying any attention, just staring at their shoes, staring at the ceiling, staring off into space, but certainly not paying any attention to me. Well, I realized after just a few minutes that I had made a terrible mistake by coming there. This was not the people who were going to do name that tune and get out there on the dance floor and shake around and have a ball. These were people who were lost. And so I packed up to go and apologized to the adult leader that was there. And I don't know, on the way out, it could have been an accident or it could have been a miracle. I pressed the go button on my CD player, and the a song from 1939 came on, and let's see, The Wizard of Oz's song, Judy Garland's famous song there, who's who, because I am 80, is maybe beginning not to be remembered by me every day. But anyway,
So,
there,
somewhere over the rainbow.
that's the one, Over the Rainbow. Thank you very much, boy. I knew I had a sharp audience here. But
I know.
anyway, when I did that, everybody in the room started singing. Everybody. Not a soul was quiet. Did they look at me? No. Did they do whatever? No, they didn't, but they sang every word of every verse of that song. And I went over to a lady and I kneeled down next to her and tried to look into her eyes and said, "You know, you sing beautifully. Do you know who that is singing?" She paid no attention to me whatsoever, just kept right on singing. Well, I walked away from there that day amazed and came back for the next week, the next week, the next week. And the fifth week, finally, I uh, came there with a set of songs from films of the 30s and 40s, and maybe, yeah, 30s and 40s. And I uh, played those themes, mostly singing, but a little bit of just instrumental as well. And when I did that, um, I recalled that from the first meeting on, there was one person that really didn't participate with that, with the rest of them. He was a man in his late 80s, maybe as much as 90, a Japanese man, Mr. Nishi, and Mr. Nishi would fidget in his chair, and he would fidget for maybe a minute, maybe less, and then he would jump up and rush over to me while the song is going on, of course, rush over to me and tell me a riddle about my bald head. And as soon as he was finished doing that, he would rush off into another room. But a minute or so later, he's back sitting in that chair, fidgeting again. And he did this 30 times an hour, every session, except this last. I put on the song As Time Goes By, which is from the 1943 film Casablanca, and a beautiful song. And the rest of the group, they're singing the lyrics to As Time Goes By. Hey, Skip. Um,
Hi.
and as he takes this song in after half a minute, whatever, he just, instead of fidgeting, he just sits stock still like I'd slapped his face or gave him a jab of a needle or something. And he's just stunned sitting there in his chair. And after another 30 or 45 seconds, he very calmly gets up out of his chair, walks over to me, put his hand on my shoulder, and said, "You know, I was in the war." And he starts telling me about being in the Japanese army in 1943 when Voice of America broadcast that song to all the troops and units, whatever, all over the world that could get that signal. And his unit of the Japanese army got that signal. And 65 years later, he remembered that song. I was so amazed that I walked out of there that day with the feeling that I had to go see if it was possible to provide vintage music as therapy for people with memory troubles. And so for the next more years than I care even to admit, I did that for care centers and adult daycare centers um, all over the Bay Area. I don't do it as frequently anymore because COVID really gave me a hit to the gigs that I could perform at, and it took a long time for that to come back. But that's what I did, and I found all kinds of real life stories of people who were so moved by the music that they couldn't tell you that they knew if you threatened them, but they knew it. They knew that music, and it made them happy, and uh, it was good. Um, I decided that I would like to try to figure out if there was a way to measure how music was affecting the lives of people whose memories were failing them. And so um, I looked all over for research to find tests that would be appropriate to people who still were able to communicate, still be able to talk, um, and to be able to find out whether having these sessions, and I had decided that I would do 2 sessions a week, every week, and that I hope to be able to test these people before the music sessions ever started. And these were all songs of the 30s and 40s. Now I might have to roll some 50s, even 60s in there. But um, so to put all, to be able to test to see if these twice a week, hour or so long sessions had any impact on their ability to answer simple questions, easy to assess, but things and terms and words that might come up in conversation with their caregivers or their loved ones every day. And I couldn't find anything. So I made 2 tests up. I made up a test of words that we all learned in elementary school, but it turned out that the sound of the words and the spelling of the words were different. For example, the word weight, such as what my weight is. Now, I'm not going to share that with you, but an example of a word like that, could someone spell the word weight? Um, and I had 25 of those terms picked out over time, and I also had 25 things that you'd find or run across or would come up in general conversation, objects in everyday conversation. So I had 25 of each of those. I tested over the life of my program, I tested 50 people in three different locations to sum up to 50. And when I uh, when I did that, I made sure that um, I checked the correct answers and their answers to to each of these 50 items. I tested this group of 50 every 6 weeks for 3 years. And whatever the answers were on day one when they pre-tested, the answer stayed the same in 100% of cases. They might not have had every answer correct the first time, but they never lost any of the memory related to those items. At about this time, an organization, the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center at USC, um, came across the kind of thing that I was doing and visited me and, well, wanted to challenge me about this, the notion of this therapy and its utility. And the first question they answered or they asked me was, well, where is your control group? I'm not a scientist. I'm a music collector, and I never considered that at all. But I admitted that I had no control groups, and they said, "Well, you cannot do this kind of research, John, without a control group." And I said, "Okay." And by the way, where did you get these questions? Oh, well, I made them up. Well, did you ask the same questions every time you tested every 6 weeks? Yeah, yeah, yes, I did. Don't you know it's a fundamental theorem of psychology, John, and memory that if you keep asking the same questions, people are going to remember the answers. And I said, yeah, isn't that the point? Well, USC had to think about that. They probably thought they should study me instead of people who are losing their memories, but uh, they agreed to work with me because I realized I had no credentials. No one wanted to go into psychology today and read an article by a music collector. They wanted to talk to people who had real credentials, and so um, they said, "We tell you what, your therapy and your technique is pretty good. First of all, we need you to find control groups at every one of these locations, which were only three at the time, including the adult daycare center, Sarah Care in Campbell, and two residential care centers, one in Los Altos and one in Sunnyvale. And I went to those care centers along with a lot of other care centers, and the answers were a resounding no, absolutely not. Either everybody gets the music therapy or nobody gets it. So you have to decide that. Well, USC, I'm sure for them was a big admission, but they said, I can't, we'll do a deal with you, John. If you will tell us the details on every one of these 50 people that you're testing, we will find 50 comparable individuals and we'll do a remote control group. I'm not sure exactly what they call it, but they're still working with their remote control group in Pasadena um, to see if uh, the answers to those questions, not prodded by music twice a week, um, would show differences. And what I hear is that there are some noticeable differences. That people who listened and participated in these group music sessions, this was not one-on-one, but I was told by people who had all kinds of degrees in music therapy and memory therapy that what I was doing wasn't therapy. And I said, gee, I hear you. I'm not a therapist. But if you do something that positively impacts somebody's life or mind or memory, and it's therapeutic, isn't that therapy? Well, They begged to differ, I think, because they were afraid I was messing in their territory, and I never meant to do that. Anyway, USC is still working on that, and it was along about that time, uh, there was a rise in the from New York, Upper New York State, of an organization called Music and Memory, which is still doing fine, though it is now an institute, and I forgot the exact name of the institute. But if you looked up music and memory, you would find it. And the director was a social worker by the name of Dan Cohen. And in 2014, he made a film for the Robert Redford's film festival. Can't think of the name right now, but another one
Sundance.
of those. No, thank you,
Sundance.
Sundance. Another one of those memory loss issues. Anyway, and it won a big award at the 2014 film festival. The film, 118 minutes long, was called Alive Inside, and it was about Dan Cohen and his group of helpers. Um, Taking iPods out to residential care centers and giving iPods with a pre-selected set of songs on them to the residents of these care centers so that not necessarily, there was no measurement of anything involved, but here it is. These are the songs that you thought you liked when you could talk to us, or your kids thought you liked when they talked to us. And you just play these and enjoy the rest of your life. And in this film, Alive Inside, there's some amazing uh, real life stories of the impact that hearing these songs and performing these songs had on them. Um, while Dan and I think, only talked on the phone a few times, um, I think what he has done and is continuing to do is terrific, and on a much larger scale than what I had in mind. I always thought that it would take somebody with credentials to get this out into the literature enough so that people would actually be able to go to these group sessions and insurance would pay for it. That was my whole intention. Um, and it hasn't happened yet, but uh, it may in the future. And um, Music and Memory, the organization, is still going strong. They are heavily funded by grants and major donors, which is terrific, and more power to them. Um, the differences between what you'd see in that film and what I did was that was basically one-on-one. Each person got um, an iPod that with some number of songs on it. They got to play it and listen to it and react to it, sing along, dance around. A wide variety of responses were shown. I did things in groups, so I would sit down with a circle of 25 or 30 people, usually at a care center or a residential care center or an adult daycare center, and we would experience these songs together. And while we did it, we would We would smile at each other. We would see each other. When people could stand up, I would dance with them to these songs. When they couldn't stand up, I would dance with them in their chairs. And they liked it. They liked every instant of it. Did it did it make them remember more? Well, the data shows that they didn't remember any less, and I thought that was pretty good. And I kicked myself every week of my life for why I hadn't thought of this when my mom was still alive. But it happened, and I kept doing it. And I tell you, there is no more enjoyable time than to see the recognition on an individual's face where generally there wasn't much recognition. So that is my tale, not a tale of woe, but that is what I have been doing for the last 20 years. Of course, I was only 15 20 years ago, but
Mhm.
why are there
Oh.
so many smiles on your faces? Oh, anyway, but
Happy campers.
what's that?
We're happy campers.
Oh, happy campers. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, I Skip is probably my grandson, but I am not.
Great grandson.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Anyway, but uh, I think that it is after that huge boom, I'll say between 2012 and 2020, um, I thought the reaction of the healthcare center community tailed off. It didn't go away, but I don't think there is as much interested in to programs that can be evaluated for groups of those in memory care units as there was then. And I'm sorry about that. I think COVID hurt that progress, and it can always come back. But I know that organizations like USC are continuing to do academic research on it, and organizations like well, Dan Cohen's organization, not organizations like his. I think he has the only one. Uh, are continuing to spread the good news to people. Um, Before
Yeah.
I start repeating myself, I will ask you if you have any questions or comments.
Well, I just wanted to jump in here. First of all, I'm sorry for being late. This is first Tuesday of the month. That's my CSA editorial board journal date, so it overlaps. But ironically, we were actually talking about an article on just that subject today for a future article in one of the journals. So it's on the radar, and hopefully it'll produce some results for us then too.
Yeah, that's great. I'll tell you, in that period, 2013 to 2019, there were I had all kinds of requests to do articles and to have reporters come in to these. My site in Los Altos was Bridgepoint, uh, in uh, in Los Altos, and I had several newspapers come in with photographers to see how sessions like these went, as long as it was okay with the directors and the staff. But there was a time when it had lots of popularity, and that could always come back. Fortunately, I haven't gotten a bit older in the last 20 years, and so I'm just as anxious to try it now as I was then. Are there
Oh,
any
oh,
questions or
I have
comments?
I have a question for you, John. Who is Jenny?
Oh, gee, that's right. Well, the most important person in this duo is actually has stepped away, my partner Jenny. So Jenny and I have been together now for 6 years, and we go to the same church. I met her uh, on a Katrina recovery trip, fixing up houses that Hurricane Katrina had destroyed. And well, we have known each other ever since and have been together since 2019.
So you were there with Jimmy Carter.
Say again?
Jimmy Carter, he was in the Habitat Humanity.
Jimmy
He
Jimmy
Carter.
was
Carter.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Habitat for Humanity.
My favorite president. Yeah. Well, we both worked on it.
yeah,
Uh, but that was I'll say a more sophisticated program than the group of us who went into Biloxi, Mississippi, and uh, put up all new sheetrock because all the mold had been removed from the walls before we got there. Put up new sheetrock and then painted the houses. And anyway, that was how I met the love of my life, whose name is Jenny.
great. So I have another following question. You remember Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett, and Tony
I
Bennett wrote
do.
all these
I do.
songs on the piano. That was the most memorable thing I ever saw.
Yes. Very cool. And not too long before then, I remember Glenn Campbell and his daughter performing his music when he could still remember the music, but honestly couldn't remember much of anything else. He could still perform those songs, but most of his other memory was really failing.
Well, we don't know that because when I hear a song, I remember where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And the great Oliver Sacks will tell us in his books that it doesn't matter whether you remember that or not. Uh, it is what was going on at the time. Were you with friends? Was the sun shining? Whatever, all those memories come together and they make it possible so that when a melody is played many, many, many years after the first time you've heard it, you hear it again and you remember it.
Great. So last thing I have to say, my brother, he recorded thousands and thousands of music. Uh, he had started with cassettes and then CDs, and then he did it on USBs. So
I
those
can tell
are,
you're a young guy. I can tell you're a young guy because the first word you said about music was cassettes. There
yeah,
was a whole world of vinyl before that. I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
right. Yeah, well, I saw those records. My grandparents had those big records,
Gotcha.
the original ones. But
Hmm.
anyway, I wish I could contribute with that somehow because I have lots of lyrics, songs
Yeah,
in Spanish and English.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, there is there's a world of the internet out there which could help you.
Good.
Avery.
Uh, thank, sorry. Firstly, thank you so much for the presentation. It was great. I love that you told the stories rather than just going through, this is what it is, this is what the literature says, because I got goosebumps, especially when you were describing the gentleman who was in the Japanese army.
Yeah,
Um, and
me too.
Yeah. It sounds like such an amazing experience, and it sounds so exciting that people have these experiences that they come to life as you describe. So I'm wondering, when you look at assisted living facilities or memory care facilities, many of them will tout, oh, we offer music therapy as a service. And so this now I always thought, oh, that's nice. They do music therapy. But now I'm thinking to myself and starting to question, what is that? Are they, do you think are they doing something standard, like they're hiring the people who have certifications? Or do you think maybe it could be anything from people show up and they play music and they see what happens? Or is it
It's
just
it's the
anything
latter.
goes? Oh man.
Overwhelmingly, it's the latter, which is too bad. But now there are music therapists who do one-on-one work, whether they come into a care center or in a psychologist's office or whatever, but they do one-on-one work. But the overwhelming amount of music therapy is individual one-on-one. And it isn't that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but to me, it seems to leave out so many experiences that groups can offer. Uh, when I would do a group session, I would look at those faces, and they were getting a much bigger kick out of looking at each other and seeing the reactions on their faces than they were from anything I was telling them about a song or whatever. So, plus, there is the issue of it's just music. Anybody can do music. And to a large degree, that's correct. But there are ways that music can be much more of an influencer. Um, my first ever site to do this, where I got the first 16 people, was the Sarah Care Adult Daycare Center in Campbell, California. And the director of that center very kindly allowed me to let him and his uh, regular incoming, I don't want to call them patients, but they're visitors that came in every day to participate in this. And we started in a room that was only half the size that it should have been, very crowded with people, and everybody had a walker, um, except one man, a retired Army Air Corps captain who was in a wheelchair, who could not stand up at all. He was in a wheelchair. And more than that, he never spoke. All the sessions we had in there, time after time, it might have been 15 sessions before one day I happened to notice that while playing some patriotic songs from World War II, I thought I saw his lips moving. I wasn't sure. His wife was also in the class. She was having a great time. And finally, the session ended. And because he was in a wheelchair and needed the most room to get out of this crowded room, room where we did the music, um, he had to wait until last. And so after all the walkers got out of there, the activity director came in to push the captain out. And as he uh, as he walked out, I snapped off a salute in my best saluting form from the Air Force and said, "I'll see you Monday, Captain." And he turned to me and he said, "I will, thank you." And the activity director semi-collapsed. She had never heard the man speak before. And she did recover enough so that she was able to push him out of the room. But she told me later on that that's the first time she'd ever heard a word out of him. It was the music. It wasn't me. I just happened to be there and watch it. It was the music that affected him. Anyway, I got a chance to see that at least twice a week, every week of my life for maybe 10 years, and had a big effect on me.
Yeah, Sarah Care's actually about a block away from my house, but they are no longer. They got, I guess they were bought out or went out of business. There's another care facility there now, which I
Mhm.
can't remember who it is.
About it. Yeah. Well,
Real quickly, I'll just interject, Skip. When John and I were talking earlier, we discovered he was telling me about Sarah Care. I was their first culinary director when they opened.
Ah,
wow. And you remember Tim, who was
yeah.
the first director. He was the guy who well allowed me to do this as a volunteer, and then later on he hired me as his uh, at least interim replacement.
Where's he now? Do you know?
I believe he is a consultant for the county in services for adult daycare throughout the county.
Okay.
Drake.
You're on mute.
Thank you for having me. As you can tell, I hate doing this.
We could just listen to stories. Listen, oh my gosh. Anyway, go
Yeah.
ahead, Drake.
Yes, this is speaks to my heart. My wife is a singer-songwriter, and we have noticed over the years. We also do ministry, and we've noticed over the years in hospitals, in care centers, various situations, and even at times when people seems like they're in comas, we've noticed that they will react to music. My wife will start singing, and it's not that it's her singing, it's just the music, and it touches their hearts, and they'll squeeze a hand, they'll do something to reach out. We've noticed that time and time again. So I've come to the strong conclusion that when a doctor tells me, well, they don't know you're here because they're in a coma, I don't believe that at all because of what we've experienced. And a lot of it through music, as you so aptly provided today.
I think I've been in the senior care industry for since 2004, and I've visited a lot of senior centers and more importantly senior daycare centers and people that have a lot of late stage dementia. It's the familiar. If you get to dementia counselors and care managers, it really comes down to the familiar, what connects people, but also that's why it's so important to have the art and music, because it's the only two things that it's the only thing you can do where both hemispheres of your brains are working at the same time is with art and music. So it's another piece of that human symphony of connection. Like that's how we can reach each other, and it's like, wow, we're, oh my gosh, we're so, there's dementia is on the rise because of people are living longer, because of the processed foods, because of lifestyle, because of it's also because we're cutting music and art therapies is the first thing to go in our system. And so, I mean, more art and music is what it comes down to, right? No matter what. Thank you for sharing.
Well put.
Anna Marie.
Hi, this may have already been said because I unfortunately had to step away for a second. Um, the other thing that they found is that people that have played instruments, their memory for that is they can't do anything else, but you sit them at a piano and they can play classical piano pieces. It's unbelievable.
Yep, I have experienced that personally also.
By the way,
I keep asking my dentist if I'll be able to play the piano after the dental work, and they say, "Well, could you before?" And I say no. And
oh,
anyway, that's
Just
one that's
checking.
even older than you, Skip.
just about. By the way, I'd like to thank a couple of people here for sitting in. You know, I had my SRES class last week. In fact, it was last Tuesday and Wednesday. That's why I wasn't here then. And I see both Anna Marie and Joel from the class on here, and I wanted to thank you guys for
And Mardala,
participating.
Mardala, you have to
Oh,
tell
oh
me. You have
yeah,
to tell me what's correct. She's she,
fiddling with the.
she's fuzzy.
It's the key over there. It says
So
unmute.
just move.
There it is. Keep it. Yeah.
Oh,
Ah,
hi. Hi, can you hear me? I don't know why I'm fogged. It looks like coastal
must
fog.
be bad weather.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, all the stories, and I'm enjoying sitting in here and listening. And thank you, Skip, and thank you, Julie. Thank you, John.
Such great information for us to be able to have,
Yes.
just that much more
Oh,
in our knowledge base when we're working with our seniors and our senior homeowners and their families. It's amazing. Um, the depth that we can derive from that.
And Skip, you did an excellent job last week at that class.
Yeah, didn't I? Oh,
You did. You did.
oh, thank you. Thank you. The next one, by the way, is going to be May 12th and 13th. That's a Tuesday and Wednesday, and that'll be through CAR. So if you have anybody you want to recommend for it, just let them know, and there'll be more information when we get the flyers for marketing and start pumping that out. So yeah.
And Anne Marie, did you have another?
Yeah, I was just going to share because my mom's been in memory care since 2005, unfortunately, and we've had her in three different homes. Long story, because she went in during COVID. And really, like, I've seen a big difference. I've learned a lot very unofficially, but just watching, um, the different types of programs that are offered. It's so important that they do have things that keep them engaged. And it's fun when sometimes I'll go in and I'll just put on on YouTube and I'll just find like old songs and they just all get up and dance and they all sing along and just to have it be fun. I mean, I don't know what it does to the brain, but who cares? Like so they're having fun and enjoying life. And they're not, I mean, this last place she's in is really great and they do a lot of really, they do fun activities. But I've just noticed like one time an Elvis impersonator came. This was a combo assisted living and memory care. So this one was on the assisted living time and she got all dolled up and she came with her mink like wrap stole and she told me she was a big Elvis fan and she'd seen him in concert and she could barely I helped her stand up because she just wanted to groove to the fake Elvis. It was so freaking cute. So I mean I came out of the music industry. I mean I'm a big proponent in anything that brings joy. You know what I mean? And who knows what it does to the brain, but you know what? Life's too short for none of us to be disconnected from joy. That's how I look at it.
Well, music is
Good
using
point.
that brain. It's
I don't
using
know.
it all the time.
Well, look at as much as we forget things, like we can remember songs we grew up in, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy, even just at
Isn't
us.
that amazing?
Okay, so we just had Neil Sedaka passed away. It was so sad.
Yep.
And and of course, on social media we've been sharing that a lot. And when his songs came out, of course, I just know them all and I know exactly and I think somebody mentioned, when we hear a song, we connect it to exactly where we were when the first time we heard it or when we were singing it a lot. And and it's still there. It's and it, so so OCD. I mean, my people are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that you remember that stuff." I'm like, "Well, it's stuck. It's
Yeah.
there in my head."
You're a calendar girl.
There's an
Yeah.
Yeah.
emotional
Yeah.
sensory, that's like the neurosops. There's a reason for that. I
Yeah.
mean, music can also be a little bit traumatic too, based on like
Oh
what was going
yeah.
on in that time in your life and things like
Hmm.
that. Um, but I grew up Gen X and we have the best portfolio
Yeah.
of music.
No, you
I grew up on
don't.
MTV, like
The
I was my religion.
boomers. The
Okay.
boomers
So,
had all the great bands. Remember
uh,
Woodstock?
we could have a
Well,
whole meeting just on genre. Cause,
yeah,
Yeah.
'cause so I have them all in my head.
I am sure you do.
All of them. And I have excess. I like John mentioned he has so much vinyl and so much uh in archived music archived. You have 45s too, right, John?
I do
Yeah,
thousands of them. Yeah.
thousands. That's amazing.
Oh, a
I
gun
thought I was
owner, huh?
bad. I only have
Love this.
like a couple of buckets. Anyway, I learned a lot. What do you guys think?
It was all right. It was
You
okay.
know, okay, so the one thing that comes to mind too is having a conversation with our senior living communities and the care providers um, and the dementia care departments and their people. We can have conversations on behalf of ourselves, our families, and our clients to speak to this a little bit about and learn, what the different communities have in store, have installed, what their attitude is,
Can
what
I speak?
services. Go
Julie,
ahead,
I'd like to
Jessica.
speak. I'd like to speak to that because
Yeah, you go, girl.
I don't think it's really what they say. It's really what you see when you get there. I mean, like I've done this for years, and people get a little bit stuck on the wrong things. Like aesthetics is one of them, which is of course nice, but who are they there for? Because it's not has anything to do with care. And if you really want to like look at a community or your target community, and you really want to know if it's a good community or not, the thing you should be looking at is the caregivers. Because if they're happy or upbeat or look like they're in it, then that says everything you really need to know. That's the facilitators. And somebody that is a good art and music director, especially memory care, like we have one in Santa Barbara. I mean, this guy is like, he should be world known. I'm not kidding you. But it's so rare. It is so rare. And over the like 20 years ago, the art and music directors were so lost because there was no continuity between what they were getting from their company or a support system. I mean, hopefully the things are different now because we could be online a lot, but that is usually one of the all the positions are hard to fill, but that is the hardest position to fill in a community. That recreational person, that Julie from Love Boat, that is the
Mhm.
and but that they're worth their weight in gold if you have a good one. But asking them, Julie, it's really what you see. It's really what you see when you're there. That's my opinion.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And folks, I'm going to have to drop off here, but I just wanted to remind you this is our 82nd recording, and all the recordings are on the website that Julie has finally put up for us. So you can go back and watch any of the previous ones. And we got some exciting ones coming up. Next week is going to be actually, it's a very relevant topic for now, buying versus renting. So, and believe it or not, my old high school buddy is going to be presenting it, and that's an interesting story. I'll tell you next week, but you might want to stick around for that next week then too, and we'll be happy to see you guys. So, I hope you guys have a good week. I'll see you next week.
Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
everybody,
Thank
we're gonna
you.
Thank you so
call it a
much.
do.
Thanks,
And thank
everybody.
you
Have
so
a
much
great day.
yeah, I'm so happy to see all of our newest colleagues, SRES colleagues, and we'll see you guys next week.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Great to
Thank
see
you,
you.
John. This
You're
is
very
amazing.
welcome. Thanks for
Thank you so
having me.
much.
Thank you.
I have so many ideas now. I'll call you.
Me too, Julie.
Right?
Yeah, we should talk.
I know.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, talk to you later.